Hello, I'm Francoise Nicoloff, a French-Australian clinical psychologist for over 40 years now, and your host for this all-new show, the Conscious Ear podcast. Imagine the connections in the brain as roads. Each of these roads represents a connection to each of our five senses. We have vision, hearing, touch, taste, smell. Imagine those senses like cars, and the cars that go on those roads are the sensory input information collected by our senses from the environment. So now we have more and more people with sensory integration disorders, especially the children. And they can have 1, 2, 3, or the 5 senses which can be having issues and the connections with the brain which are malfunctioning. Think of this malfunction as a road mishap or some work on the road or a car accident or 2 angry drivers fighting, for instance. If this connection will not work properly or harmoniously, the rest of the function will be compromised and will be affected like a traffic jam. So it's a great analogy to use a traffic jam regarding sensory integration disorder, because when we are submitted to a lot of different stimuli in the environment, then our brain becomes overwhelmed. And that creates a traffic jam in the brain. And when this traffic jam becomes too overwhelming, then the brain cannot function properly. And we have unpleasant behavior from a child experiencing this overload. Often it's like oversensitivity to normal lighting, oversensitivity to sounds. They become very picky with their food. They only used to eat only smash food or crunchy food. They have a very limited diet because they don't like the texture or the feeling of that food on their tongue or in their mouth, as well as the taste or the smell of it. They cannot stand textures of even clothes. They can't stand socks on or the hem at the bottom of their trousers or the pants. Or they don't like the feeling of being barefoot on grass or sand. So imagine something which is so natural becomes such a difficult thing to handle. And we have with autistic children more and more children who are suffering from sensory integration disorder. So they could hate almost everything that would add to that traffic jam in their brain, to the points of lots of meltdowns, a lot of dramas, a lot of outbursts, and other coping mechanisms which are very disruptive in their daily life. So there is a program which can help to desensitize the brain to a certain degree. And this method or program is called the Tomatis method. It works actively on the vestibule. The vestibule is part of the inner ear, and it's the organ which is necessary to control gravity, but balance, coordination as well, movement. But it's also dealing with sensory integration because it's connected to all the senses. It's connected to all the muscles of the body, and not a single muscle can move without the interplay of the vestibular system. So it's a part of the inner ear with the vestibular system that manages sensory integration and space as well, and sense of direction and sequencing and planning and organization skills that we also get into learning processes. So when we use the Tomatis method, this ear-brain training works by stimulating the brain and the body by producing some specific frequencies of filtered or gated music that enters the ear via bone and air conduction, and which are going to take the vestibular and the cochlear nerve to send the information through different steps to the brain. So such stimulation activates the neural pathways involved in developing the nervous system, keeping the brain alert to take in the information that reaches it, and also being able to assess it and to dispatch the incoming sensory information to the different parts of the brain it needs to reach. So what it does, it helps the traffic jam to decrease, and finally for the information to reach the different parts of the brain it needs to go. Therefore, to have the appropriate behavior, which is linked to that sensory input. So training the brain to perceive, analyze, and dispatch the sensory information appropriately allows the child or the adult to become calmer, more flexible, less drama on a daily basis, less outburst, and then to have their life to be much easier and to fit in the society normally. This is once again Francoise Nicoloff, your guide to wellness and better life. Talk to you soon.